Good day, everybody. I want to talk about grading. First, some background on my philosophy. I truly believe that we give students the grade that they earn. In that line, I want students to constantly strive to do their best, to be their best. Rarely do we, including myself, ever reach our potential, so I try to encourage every person I meet to do better today than they did yesterday, better this week than they did the week prior, better this month than they did last month. Rarely come across the perfect paper or assignment. In fact, I've rarely reached my best either, but I strive to do the best in all that I and we do. There's always room to make something just a bit better, which is what I do when I try to grade papers, is to try to encourage students to do just a little bit better. Given the above, how should a faculty member grade an assignment? There's some guidelines, both according to policy and expectations, and there's also best practices. Generally, we allow faculty the academic freedom to grade assignments in a way and manner that best relates to the student, how they did, and how they can improve. The faculty member, of course, is the expert within the class. That said, however, there are some guidelines and expectations that faculty are expected to follow in relation to grading a student's work. This ensures students are graded similarly and fairly throughout the tenure of their work here at the university, and it also ensures that students can learn best from their experiences in completing the assignments. So what are some of these guidelines and expectations? First, let's start with the intent of the assignment. Importantly, students must first meet the intent of the assignment, and that's where we start with grading. The most important and actually critical aspect of grading is ensuring that students meet, address, discuss, debate, present their understanding of the important components of the assignment. To be eligible for a maximum point, students must address each aspect of the assignment. How well they address each aspect will determine how many points they receive for each assignment that they have completed. As mentioned, this is the most important component of grading, and one reason a majority of faculty comments should be focused on the content and expectations of the assignment. APA and writing are important, of course, but they're not the central role of grading. Students are taking human resources or marketing or finance to learn about those disciplines, not necessarily writing. And faculty are experts in those disciplines, again, not necessarily writing. So a majority of a student's comments should reflect the content of the assignment rather than writing. So we've covered the two most important aspects of grading, which is one, focus on whether the student met the expectations or requirements of the assignment, and secondly, to focus on content, not necessarily APA writing. One trick I often do with focusing on content, if I find myself making a comment on writing, then I'll make 2 or 3 comments on content. And that ensures that most of my comments are related to content. There's a couple other guidelines that we would go through, and I'll show some examples of the graded paper that you see in front of you. First is we encourage faculty to put a comment on every page. Students often do not know if we grade their paper unless there's comments on the paper. Of course, we all do. But comments on a paper, on each part of the paper, showcase that attention has been devoted to that aspect of the paper. So when I grade a paper, as you can see in this example here, and also in the second page, there's going to be a comment on each page. Sometimes there's 2 comments. The comments can be short or long. You can see one is quite long. If you go to the second page, there's one that's quite short. There's also another one that's a bit longer. But if you make a comment on each page, then, and usually doesn't take that long, students know that you have paid attention to that page. The second aspect that I would highlight on grading is to always make at least one personal comment in a paper assignment that highlights that you've carefully read the paper. I'll pick out a phrase, a word, a citation, a statement, an example, and I'll say this example on, for instance, Google was well placed, or this citation by Aaron was quite solid, or I like this word you used, it was perfectly included in that sentence. And that showcases not only that you've read the paper, but you pay particular attention to the words that they used. I think it's absolutely critical in showcasing to the student that you have devoted not just the time, but also the effort to ensure that you're providing quality feedback. Third, we understand that with an assignment, you may have 10 or 12 students that are making similar comments. And so the impetus is for us to do the same, is to make a comment to one student and then make the same comment to another, especially if they're making the same error. We just want to be careful that we don't make too many similar comments from paper to paper. We never know if students are sharing their grade or sharing the comments. We certainly wouldn't want to be accused of using the same comments in paper after paper. So we have to give some care to that. And just a couple more comments I would add is that if we are going to make a deduction, we always have to showcase why that deduction is made. You can see the rubric in this example, and you can see that there's some comments in the rubric. I don't put comments in each rubric row, but if I am giving a student less than full points, we are required to include a comment in that rubric row. Here's a suggestion you may want to follow. When I grade a paper, I actually open up the rubric at the same time that I'm grading the paper. If I make a comment in the paper that is going to result in a deduction in the rubric, then the same comment that I type into the paper, I actually copy and paste it into the rubric. When I'm done grading the paper, I never have to complete the rubric because I do it as I go through. It saves a considerable amount of time. One more comment, which is really just a suggestion, and that's to be kind in your grading. William Penn once said that, "I expect to pass through life but once. If therefore there's any kindness I can show or any good that I can do for my fellow being, let me do it now and not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again." Never forgot that. What he means is just be kind in what we do. In relation to grading, we don't want to say something like, "You did not," or "You failed in this aspect." We could say something like, "Good effort, and to improve you may want to consider." Or you can say, "I see where you were going here." You can also, so it's very positive. They certainly didn't meet the expectations. You're pointing that out to them, but it's often the words that you use. With that, enjoy the day, and I look forward to any thoughts we should consider as we all move forward in trying to provide the best type of experience for the students in relation to grading. Enjoy the day.